Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. Today I want to address a topic I have covered before, but I want to cover it again for newer viewers and I want to add some new information. The question I'm referring to is one that I get quite often. It's, hey, at what age should I buy my child their first handgun? When should I start letting them to shoot handguns at the range? When is it safe? And what is the best handgun I can get them to start out with? Well, there's a lot of things to consider here. First off, you got to consider your child. Do you have a child who's wild and reckless, or are they very reserved and more, trustworthy? They don't go off the deep end. They're not real emotional or reactionary. You know your child better than I know your child. Now, I will say that all young children should be supervised constantly at the range. Heck, I still don't let my 18-year-old go to the range with just his friends on my property here because I'm like, no, kids your age do stupid things when they're by themselves. So I always go with my son to the range even though he's 18 years old. So it's up to you what you do. But keep in mind, the safety of your child should be your top priority. When my son was very young, and in my family, to answer the first part of the question, you usually get your first rifle between 6 and 8 years old, and you get your first handgun between 8 and 10 years old. It's just kind of a history we have, and it's what I've done with most of my children, my own children and my nieces, nephews, etc., when I've started them shooting. I've started them about that age. Now, that doesn't mean all my nieces, nephews, whatever, I would trust at 10 years old with a handgun. I've got some that are 30 that I wouldn't trust with a gun. Wouldn't give them a 22 single shot right now because I don't trust them. So, you know your child better than me, but keep in mind, small children do stupid things and teenagers do stupid things, but that's a different question. Just keep in mind, young kids can do stupid things. They don't think logically. They don't think like you and me. Their brain doesn't work that way yet. So keep in mind, you're the adult in the situation and you're responsible for their safety constantly. But like I said, I've always found it's a pretty safe bet to say between the age of 8 and 10, they can receive a handgun. And they can usually be pretty safe with it at the range, especially if you're standing over their shoulders. But you're eventually going to want to give them some space, stand back and let them shoot pretty much on their own, get a little bit of confidence. So I always recommend when you're buying your child their first handgun, the best option is a single action 22 revolver. And there's multiple reasons for that. One, it's 22. It's not going to be hard recoiling. It's not going to be more than they can handle. Not going to be a giant gun. 22s aren't generally huge. So it's going to be easy for them to control, going to be easy for them to use. Not that loud, so it's not going to frighten them when it goes off. We've all seen how people react to recoil and the actual bang of a gun, and it can sometimes be negative. Even adults. I've always found that when I teach an adult to shoot a gun, their first shot, they're usually close to bullseye. It's after that they start doing bad because now they're anticipating that big boom, and it's making them panic a little bit. Kids can do that too. So having that smaller pop instead of that big boom means they probably won't panic. And if they do, the reason it's single action is, even if they go bang and then they panic, they're not going to pull the trigger again because they got to cock the hammer again before to fire again. So it is not live once they pull that trigger unless they cock that hammer again. That prevents a lot of problems. That little built-in feature right there is like a safety that isn't a safety. It helps prevent any NDs, especially under panic. It also, if they're moving around and they're not so good at their muzzle control yet, unless they've cocked that gun, it's not that dangerous, so you can actually teach them, keep that gun pointed in a safe direction, don't point it at other people, without it being quite as dangerous as if it was like a semi-automatic or something. A lot of people want to jump their kids immediately into semi-automatics, and if you want to do that with your kid, that's fine, but understand that's going to come with a lot more risk, and that a single action revolver is great for reducing those risks and allowing the kid to have a lot of fun with a little less right on top of them. You know what I mean? A little less of you hovering over them as they're shooting. So I think it's the best option. Now, when my son was that age, I bought him this, a little Ruger Shopkeeper. little 22 long rifle Ruger shopkeeper. I bought this because it's basically child sized. Now, the only problem with that, the problem with this gun, and one of the reasons I don't recommend this specific gun anymore, is because it's a little small. Even though my kid was small at that age, he started growing. He grew very quickly. This gun was only perfect size for him for about a year, and then he wanted something larger. He also wanted something with a little more bang after about a year. So that gun kind of, got grown out of very quickly. So if I'm recommending handguns for first-time children shooters, one of the ones I would recommend now more than anything, and I know when you start thinking, full-size 22s, you're like, is that going to be too big? I found that most of them aren't, because like I said, they're not huge guns. So they usually fit in a child's hands. It might be a little big for them at first, but like I said, it's a pretty safe gun, so that's okay, and they can still grow into it. You're going to start thinking things like, the Heritage Rough Rider or the Ruger Wrangler. Both of those are 22 long rifle. They're both single action. The Heritage, I think, even has a safety. So those are things a lot of people would think of, but there's a new gun on the market that I think is perfect for young shooters to be their first revolver, their first handgun. And that is the new Ruger Super Wrangler. And that's actually the name. I'm not being facetious here. In a live chat once, I was like, yeah, Ruger made a new Wrangler. I don't know what they call it, like the Super Wrangler or something. I was joking, but I think that's actually what it's called. It is the Super Wrangler. Now, the difference between this and the old Ruger Wrangler, it's been around a couple of years, is that the Wranglers, like the Heritage gun, are a lightweight alloy. They're aluminum. I think the Heritage uses more zinc and stuff, like a High Point, but they're an aluminum gun, lightweight framed gun. The Super Wrangler is metal. It's actual steel. So it's a little heavier of a gun, but it also comes with a 22 mag cylinder. And I think this solves that problem of them outgrowing the gun too quickly. You start them off with the 22 long rifle. It might be a little big for them at first, but it's definitely not unwieldy. It's not going to have huge recoil. In fact, it's going to have less recoil than the lighter gun. Smaller gun, well, depends. They're lightweight. If your other gun was metal, let's not get into the recoil differences, but still going to be easily handled by, an 8 to 10 year old. And it's got some room for them to grow into it size-wise. And also, the reason this gun is metal instead of aluminum is because it also comes with a 22 Magnum cylinder. So let's say you start them at 8 years old, and by the time they're 9, they're like, 22's getting a little boring, the gun's getting a little small for them if they've had another gun. This gun doesn't have that problem, it's not too small for them, and now you can bump it up to 22 Magnum. 22 Magnum's a lot more fun for kids to shoot. I remember I used to go running around in the woods with my 22 all the time when I was a kid. Loved it. Thought it was the best caliber ever. I had a little 22 Magnum. Loved it. And the first gun I ever bought myself as an adult, the first handgun, was a Taurus 22 Magnum revolver. So I got no problem with 22 Mag. And like I said, it is great for the kids. They start off on the 22 long rifle. And then when they decide they want a little more pop, you just swap that other cylinder in there. And now they got a single action 22 Magnum. And the gun is full size, so they're not outgrowing it physically. And like I said, they have a little bit more fun with it because it's got a little more power. So right now, I'm going to say, when it comes to buying their first handgun, I think the perfect age is between 8 and 10, unless your kid is exceptional. Let's just say that. Special. And I'm talking like wearing a helmet to school kind of special, maybe. Not because they have a handicap, just because that kid ain't right. That's special circumstances, your kid. But 8 to 10 years old is really a good age for them to get the hang of shooting handguns at the range. And that new Ruger Super Wrangler, that gives them the option of growing into the gun a little bit and going up to that 22 Magnum cylinder without even changing gun. They get to stay on the same gun they're used to. They just get to have a little more fun. I think that is one of the best guns you could possibly buy them as their first handgun. So there you have it. There's my opinion. Does your opinion differ? Let me know in the comments section below. But that's it for me on this topic. All right, everybody, before I go, I want to ask for a little help from you, the viewers. As many of you already know, I have a website, tympistolproject.com. There's a link in the upper corner of this video where I sell merchandise. You can get official TYMP merchandise, or you can join the Save the 40s Club and be on the scroll later in the video. You can do either of those things. And I also sell on YouTube. I have a YouTube store, but that doesn't seem to get noticed by anybody. And if you see a design on my channel page, if you see it on my web store, I designed it. I drew it. I came up with it. It's all me. You can tell from the fact that they're pretty lazily done because I am a lazy artist. So I do all the work on these. That includes coming up with the ideas. And I'm getting tired of coming up with ideas. I would love to hear if you have any ideas for shirts. Is there something you would like to see? Something funny, something poignant, something clever. You know, you come up with the idea, I'll see what I can do with it. Because like I said, I'd rather you all do the work now instead of me. Because like I said, I'm lazy. So if you got any ideas for custom merchandise, send them to me to shootingleftofcenter@gmail.com or put them in the comments section of this video. And like I said, I'll see what I can do. And that is it for me today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope to see you again tomorrow. Until then, remember, always carry and stay safe until I see you again.